That's
T-
cool. This hat,
technology.
someone put this hat underneath like a really heavy book for a while, so it's kind of.
I found a teleprompter for my lecture for grad school, and
Hmm.
I played with it, and so I was looking right at the camera, and I was like the only one who did that, and I felt kind of weird, but I was like reading from the script but looking.
Well, it makes a difference because like when I did our last one of these, I'm like this the whole time, like with my
Yeah.
eyes just down, and it just looks like I'm kind of having a bad day, you know? I don't want to do that. Don't want to do that. To the people, they care, you know, they
Yeah.
care. So, so let's talk AI. This was a deep weekend for me in AI, and we'll talk a little about that. I think that's what I'm bringing to the table. I don't know if either of you read my newsletter this weekend, but I kind of detailed it there. I think you both did. Amanda did, but I think you did too, Roman. So we can talk about that. But I want to hear where you guys are at first.
I
So
couldn't find any notes on what I was supposed to learn about before
you're
today.
so on brand. You're
Was I
so
supposed to,
freaking on
what
brand.
was I supposed to learn?
Oh, oh. I mean, I even send you like a Fathom update. We have this Fathom thing, and I send you a Fathom update about
Oh
what it
yeah.
is. Yeah, yeah. So you just like even had it on paper for you.
I'll
That's
say
okay.
this. I'll say this. I was just editing a podcast about DEA enforcement, and fentanyl is the number one killer of people aged 18 to 45.
It sounds like we're starting with Amanda today.
Funny. Well, I pulled a bit of a Roman. So on Wednesday, when it would have been a good idea for me to do the Gemini
Uh-huh.
GPT comparison thing, I didn't remember. So Friday, I kind of went back and looked at what it would have been instead. Um, and the differences are interesting. So Gemini is, well, first of all, it doesn't allow you to upload anything,
Right,
at least
which is
not that I,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah. So I copy pasted, and that was fine. Um, but it gives you, so you know all this, it gives you like three different directions, like angles to come at
Mm-hmm.
things with, like either informative or,
Like voices, kind
fun.
of. Yeah.
Yeah, like different, yeah, tones.
Mindsets,
And
tones. Yeah.
yeah. And GPT does that, except you pick it before you get an answer, so you do more balanced, more precise. Um, and it was nice to actually see them, you know, in a list, like the
Mm-hmm.
different tones in a list. So I did enjoy that. Um, it had a few weird problems where it was like, I don't understand you, which is to be expected. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then, oh yes, so I actually did end up using Gemini for two of the social media posts I was going to do. And I used it because it's a little friendlier and not friendlier. I guess maybe it's the setting I have DPT on though,
A
so
little like friendlier or like
a
more
little more entertaining, more
snappier? Like what do you mean?
snappier. That's good. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
More, it was snappier. But I haven't played with uh, choosing, altering my choices for GPT as far as what it's giving me. Um, like I think I have it on more balanced right now.
Mm-hmm.
So
But
anyway, I think
also you can do that with a prompt a little bit too, right?
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it like when I did try to prompt or to like adjust Gemini, it wasn't super responsive.
Right.
So
That's what I've noticed about Gemini. It doesn't seem very flexible, but it's very
yeah.
the thing that distinguishes it from the other two is that integrated into it's integrated in, I'm looking at the wrong camera. It's integrated into the, let me turn this one down so I don't use it anymore. If I'm going to go to all this trouble, I might as well get it right. So uh, it's the only one that's integrated into a app suite, whereas obviously Copilot is too. ChatGPT is in Copilot, but we're not using the Microsoft suite because this isn't 2002. So I think that I'm interested in, it's nice to hear that stuff about the voice, but I'm more interested in the functionality. So does Gemini interact with the web the way that GPT does, or no?
Um, so I don't know specifically. I do know that I asked it for like trending, and
Yes.
it said like we can't. It said the same thing that GPT does. Like we can't access, up to the minute trends,
Hmm.
which kind of surprised me because I thought it was more capable of doing Google.
That was like the whole point of
Yeah,
Gemini for me, was to see if it could be more connected to the data, the social graph that
yeah,
Google has.
mhm.
That's disappointing. Can you
Yeah.
dig
I'm
into
not.
that deeper
Yeah,
and
I
actually do
definitely.
some research about, like just do a little research on whether you can do that, like
Yeah,
outside of the Gemini space? It's only going to be so helpful with it. Um, and the other thing that I want you to play with, so two things. That's really, I don't need a better writer. You're a good enough writer. So I'm not looking for chat to be it's neither of them are as good a writer as you are. So I'm really not looking for that, but I am looking for them to be able to pull the trends more efficiently, more precisely, and also that idea of writing to a framework. So hooks and leads and SEO optimized, but it's also like hook and lead optimized. Like maybe
yeah,
like whether it's better or worse than chat at that is really, those are the areas that I care about.
yeah,
So think about that. And
yeah.
then the other side that I wanted to explore Gemini with is functionality within the Google Suite. So we use
Mm.
Google Suite for everything we do. Like, can it work? I have this idea in my head that there are a few productivity suites that are connected to AIs. That one, CoPilot, and also Notion. And with all of them, I have this idea that you can go in and I could just say, hey, Notion AI, I want you to create a workspace for this functionality using this information. Do something for me. And I've been in Notion and I know all the little pieces that you have to put together to do that yourself. And I
Mm.
have this idea in my head that the AI will just do it magically. So I want to see how that works on Gemini. So I want you to sort of ask it to generate what would be our script or some kind of document, or can you create a form to do X and Y? Like from a productivity standpoint, does it do the work of knowing how to use Google Sheets, for example, for you? You know?
Right.
So I
Yeah.
don't need you to solve that. I want you to investigate that a little bit, you know?
So is that giving it information to put into a spreadsheet or a script,
Yes.
or asking it for that information?
No. So the first part is the asking it for the information thing. That's a
Okay.
different thing. I'm interested in it.
Got
The second part is about exploring how it formats and controls information that you already have. So
it.
you don't need to worry about, okay, I need to have a spreadsheet's worth of data to do it. It could be a simpler task, like I want to create an AV script and I want it to be in this format, and at the top I want it to have that. You know what I mean? It can
Yeah.
be something that's more of a container,
Mm.
or I want to create for example, you made a really good spreadsheet that tracks the timing of all the deadlines in your work all week long, right?
Mm.
So you talked about, the points at which something needs to happen let me start that part over so I could just cut it. For example, you made this really interesting spreadsheet where you kind of documented a lot of processes that we have in our company. And I think it would be really great if we could, next time we were going to go do something like that, just tell Gemini what we wanted to do and have it create it for it. We would still have to enter all the information that you put in about our processes, but
Mm.
that formatting, that creation of a way to organize it, maybe we can rely on AI a little bit for that. I want to understand how good it is at that, you know?
Yeah, that's interesting. And I'm coming at it from a human brain perspective again, but just like
How
I
dare you?
think, but I like that's what I find fascinating about this whole thing. Just that like it's it's forcing us to be more exact and more like put our thoughts into words. It's
Yeah.
really forcing us to
Yeah.
organize our thoughts and put them into words, which is, I think, really valuable.
I totally agree with you. I feel like that's why prompting is challenging, and it's going to be it's going to be less challenging as we go because the AIs are going to get better at doing it for us.
Right.
So
Yeah.
what I was going to suggest to you is if that's a challenge for you, it actually it's a strong suit for me.
Mhm.
So I feel that my prompting game is pretty high, but I have no education in prompting. It's just the way my brain works, so it's easier for me to do it that way. But when I'm challenged, and what I'd suggest to you is ask it, I want to make a spreadsheet about so and so. Can you ask me 10 questions to help figure out what I want?
Oh,
That,
yeah.
that's what I do with it. I
Mhm.
always am working at it that way. Or I'm trying to do this. Can you give me 3 ways that I could potentially do it? Or I'd really like to have this here. What's the best strategy to do that? Well, I don't know how to do this. Is there another way? I sort of like, you know, sort
Yeah.
of manage it and have it manage me at the same time.
Right.
So worth
Yeah.
thinking about that. And some of the questions I'm getting at, I don't want to lose the stuff on the trends. I think that's really important, and it's not going to work without it. But part of what I'm trying to figure out in my head is how we can. Um, it's like two sides of AI. How AI can contribute to our end product, and how AI can be infused in our processes to make possible what wasn't possible before, or make things scale that didn't scale before. So I'm trying
Mhm.
to figure both of those things out. So
Yeah.
this is in that second bucket.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. The other drawback of Gemini is obviously you can't do custom GPTs. So you have to kind of start from scratch each time.
right, right. So the other thing that just another little prompting tip that triggered in my head is most people who do use these things all the time sort of create a prompt uh, swipe file. So they
Yeah.
have, and for an individual prompt, so they might end up with a
Mhm.
prompt that's like 3 pages long, but it's
Yeah.
because they've tried all these things, and when something they want to hit is, they copy it and paste it into their file. And I think
Yeah.
for Gemini, that's the ticket. For custom GPTs and also for Claude, they kind of do that for you because you have the special instructions area and you can just
Oh,
keep adding to that. But that's
mhm.
the
Right.
difference, I think, with Gemini. Just do a file.
Yeah, I had started actually doing that and I forgot about before we got into the custom GPTs. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, those custom GPTs are super cool. The thing that they're shareable, that's the other cool thing about those
Yeah.
GPTs. I don't know if
Mhm.
Claude's are yet, but I like Claude's even better. Their custom interface. It's the same idea completely, but I like it even better. However, Claude is not multimodal the same way that GPT is, and it's
Right.
not connected to the internet. So it's like this really, really smart, unconnected, AI. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, they all have their benefits and
Right,
and
right. And
drawbacks.
drawback. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Um, I pasted some of Gemini's um responses, but I don't think there's anything particularly.
Significant.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So work on those two things. Keep working on the trend thing with the idea of like doing some outside research, and
Mhm.
then try to figure out its competency in like supercharging Google Suites for us. So say, because if you can figure that out, let me just tell you where that fits in the big picture. If you can figure that out, that means we can say, all right, we need to create an auto scheduler because our clients we're always having to schedule these things for them and it becomes a pain for them. Well, I could go buy an auto scheduler, or if we already have a thing to create it in a suite of things we're already interacting with the client with, whether that's Suite, which we already use, Google Suite, or Notion, which I'll explore, but for the same way, we're going to need that. So that's the purpose of it in long term.
Got it.
Roman, you ready to make some stuff up since you didn't do anything this week? You actually did
Actually,
some stuff. So,
coincidentally, while you guys were chatting, I was trying to recover from And
Nice, nice.
I glanced at the Fathom that you sent last time, the
Yeah.
summary of our last meeting, and coincidentally, I accidentally did do. In fact, one of the only things I did this past week was what you asked me to do, which was to research YouTube Shorts and LinkedIn Shorts. In fact, we had a pretty spirited conversation about that just yesterday,
Yeah, I
where,
think
because I am going through some terrible growing pains
yes.
with
I just want to
learning.
note, I think this is so beautiful because in that rather spirited conversation, you were like, "Well, I didn't know that I needed to do this." And it literally was your job for the week.
It was. It
So
was.
anyway,
Well, but before we continue, I do want to say this because I'm curious to see what happens in
uh-huh.
the Fathom meeting summary.
Okay, that's good. I'm all for experiments.
After I say the following scripted content, which I wrote while you guys were chatting.
Yes.
I cannot stress this enough. If there is one thing to take away from this meeting, it is this. I do not trust Fathom. I think it's trying to gaslight us so that we misremember our own conversations, thus slowly turning us against one another.
All
So I
right.
want to see. All right, that's it. Thank you
We're
for
going to report
indulging
back.
me.
That's an interesting experiment. I like
I'm
that.
very curious to see if the Fathom says Roman is concerned that I'm lying to him. Um,
We'll find out. We'll find
we'll
out.
find
That's a
out.
takeaway. And this continuing discussion will be documented as well. So we'll report back on that next meeting. I love it.
So moving back to YouTube Shorts and stuff, I remembered that a very long time ago, and I looked 11 years ago. You asked me to like we had a very light day at work, and this is back when we were all still in the same office together. And you asked all the editors to do really quick one-off like YouTube videos to try and get see if like who could get a bunch of views, and I did how to open a
Oh,
beer bottle with
yes.
a lighter.
You sure did.
I did. And so I'm only bringing this up because it was perhaps our first experiment with YouTube Shorts. And just looking at the search results, when you type in how to open a beer bottle with a lighter, you get 3-minute videos, 2-minute videos all over the place. There is only basically 90% of the videos, including Howcast, which created quite a empire around how to do things. That video is a minute long. My video was 20 seconds long. It's actually 26 because it has a funny ender at the end. And I would just like to say this. How to open a beer bottle with a lighter on Howcast. Very mixed comments. Very first comment, bleeding, destroyed a lighter.
Oh, man. Brutal.
How to open a beer bottle of lighter on Video Jug, 300,000 views. First comment, not only is my bottle not opened, but my hand is fucked and bleeding. Nice. The comments on my video, wow, that was easy. I am amazed. Thank you. My soda is open. It worked. Ending was perfect. Thumbs up. Best video on the net. Worked perfectly. Thank you. Got it on the first try. Got it first try forever. Thanks. Finally got my beer open. You saved our life. I was getting emotional reading this. Thank you from 9 years in the future.
That would probably be today.
And so it was, and then my favorite, you a god, kinda
Kinda.
is my
Nice.
favorite comment.
All right.
So anyway, this
Your
is all.
conclusion. Yeah.
My conclusion is that, perhaps part of the reason I get offended by like learning all the new stuff is I feel like, 11 years ago, I knew what it was to make a very short video that achieved what it had to do and got a bunch of views and got a bunch of amazing comments. And now, why, Adam? Why do I feel like a lost little sheep?
Well, because as we discussed during our spirited conversation, you have this feeling like you should already know how to do it. And if you don't already know how to do it, it's some kind of failing or personal failing in your mind. If it doesn't just organically come out of you the way that short did 9 years ago or whatever it was, then it's not, then it's somehow cheating to learn how to do it. And
That's
so
true.
we've tried
If
to
it does,
break
if yeah,
that chain a little bit. I'm
if
sure
if it
that
were
you
Yeah.
know, a lot of trauma engaged in that chain, I would imagine.
It
So,
is true that the
not to
moment
make light
something
of anything like that, but
it is true that the moment something requires more than a baseline of thought, I get very upset.
and so here's how I think about it. I was thinking about this over the last couple of days. So when we say spirited conversation, we mean like me yelling at you and you saying whoa, 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 and we're yelling back and forth, just to make sure everyone's clear what a spirited conversation means.
We
So
we well, we've known each other since 2006, so we take out a lot of emotions on each other,
that's
and
true.
it's
That's true.
understood. And we, sometimes there's emotions in our voice from other things happening in our lives, and they just happen to bleed into a conversation about YouTube shorts.
It's
But
true. It's true. But
but all
so
things.
so bigger picture though, bigger picture. There are people who care about a narrative and there are people who care about form. I'm someone who's always been a form guy. I'm a formalist, they call it. Someone who sees as much storytelling in the way that something is told as what is being told. Roman just left. Don't know where he went.
No, I didn't. My wife is walking out of the shower.
Oh, okay. I see. Got
She
it.
begged me to
Got
turn
it.
my video off for 5 seconds, and so
Oh, that's fine. Just the way I have it set, it makes you disappear when your video goes off. So it's
well,
perfectly acceptable that you did
sorry,
that.
it's
That's
done.
just why I thought that. Okay. Anyway, so I think form is part of the storytelling. And so one of the things I love to do is see how we can take a form and do unconventional things to it. But you can't do that if you don't explore what people are doing with it right now and how they're using it to tell stories in different ways. And so that's all I wanted you to do. I don't expect us
Tell
like
my kids all the time.
say it again, Amanda.
That's what I tell my kids all the time. You got to know the rules to break them.
Yes,
Learn the
exactly.
rules before you break them. Cover the genitalia.
You're right.
Whoa.
Those are the takeaways. Yes,
That's
exactly.
from a sketch I wrote about young fashion students.
Well, it's also like dead on to what just happened because you turned off your camera for a reason, and so it's all connected.
I was
So
trying to.
anyway, but anyway, so you did do that. So what did you find?
Well, it's a slow process, Adam. I don't know. I guess I just found the one thing that I thought was very interesting. So, I mean, look, there's a million things that we can talk about. We can talk about this, we can talk about what the narrative structure is. We can talk about the graphic design world that we're in, which I feel like what Fox Sports started, and now it's like how everyone does everything. But like, who started covering the screen and shit? And I feel like it was Fox Sports many, many years ago, just trying to make, they said like a robot spiking a football during NFL games for no reason whatsoever. No, I mean, like the first things that pops into my head is I was watching this young woman who has a very successful channel speak about her process. Do you remember her name?
Me?
Yeah.
You're talking about Jenny Hoyos?
Yes.
Yes,
And
yes.
one thing
Jenny
that I've
Hoyos, the shorts mogul. Jenny Hoyos is 19. She has like, gets 20 million views, 40 million views a short. She's awesome. So
and
anyway, yeah.
what's really interesting, sort of about how the culture changes, how about media changes, about how communication changes, is that she's like, I'm watching one of her interviews and she's like, I don't really think that you have to speak that quickly when you do these videos. I don't think quick speaking is that important. In fact, if you speak too quickly, people won't understand what you're saying. So you actually going too fast is not my style. And I was just like, oh, this is such a nerdy thing to say, but like, if you watch basketball in 2007, Mike D'Antoni had this way to play fast basketball, and his team was the fastest team by far, and people thought it was a gimmick. Now, that same team from 2008 that people thought was insanely fast and a gimmick would be the slowest team in the NBA today. Like, things change. So to her, speaking too quickly is a level of speed that we is like the micro machines guy. God, I'm using so many old references.
Yeah, no,
But
I love this. This is so right what you're saying, Roman. It's so
yeah, but
right. I
my
was
point,
just listening to one
she's
today.
like,
It's
I like to
totally
speak at
right.
a measured pace. This is a measured pace, and I like to speak at this pace. And I'm just like, yeah, to your audience, that is a measured pace. To
Right.
a 40-year-old like me, I'm barely keeping up.
Well, it's just you could watch movies, like go watch a movie from the 60s, like Mary Poppins or something like that. It's like 10 minutes of
Yeah.
cards with orchestral music as we're getting to the first thing to hook you. Her thing is you got 3 seconds or someone's going to swipe away and it doesn't even count as a view. So what are you going to do in 3 seconds that I have to watch the next 8? Like, that is a much different challenge than someone paid to be in this room. They're here for the air conditioning. And now they're
Mhm.
going to watch my movie. They're my captive audience. It's just doesn't exist anymore.
No,
So
it doesn't. Although I will slight digression, watch the Maltese Falcon because I
it's a
turned that
great
on,
movie.
but like it is fast. It is so I was shocked at how fast it was. You never expect to turn on a movie from 60, 70 years ago.
He was
And
economical, no doubt
yeah.
about it. He was always very economical.
But
It's
anyway,
true.
so that was one thing that popped into my head. I mean,
Well, let's think a little more about the technology side of it. I'm really interested in, like, so we have a set of tools and then we try to do cool shit to tell stories with them. Like we did that in 2005, we did that in 2010. Who our clients are change, but there are things you can do now that you couldn't do yesterday. And why are we need to be pushing the envelope in how those transfer value. So for example, I've been on you a lot to be playing with the green screening
hmm,
techniques that exist now. That is all AI. So we've been green screening for years. We've had a green screen in our studio since we've had a studio. It's a feature of our studio. And people stand in front of it and then we key them out, but it has to be green and I hope there isn't a shadow. As we've gone, then it's like, who cares if it's a shadow? Because the AI is figuring it out. Well, now we're at the point with who cares what's in the background? It can know what's a person and what's not. It's just going to
yeah.
do it like that. So play with that. And what does that mean when you don't have to have a background to remove someone from it? What does that mean for the stories you can tell and the way you can tell them, the comedy you can make, everything else? That's the kind of thing that we're thinking about when we think about the formalist side of it.
Yeah,
um,
I mean it's a small detail, but I used to always love that. You and I have done, and Amanda as well, all three of us, we have been involved in a million like talk soup type shows,
yes, yes, yes,
Daily
and with
Show.
a and what he's talking about with that is video box or picture box next to the person is talking directly to the screen on a green screen.
And I always loved every once in a while we would do it. I feel like we would do it often just because a certain show's style called for it. It was not something we did frequently, but I always loved it when the background behind when the person wouldn't disappear, where the graphics or the video or whatever thing we were showing wouldn't go full screen, and the person would stay there, and the screen would just be happening behind them. The background
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be the set. It would be whatever video they're talking about, or maybe they're talking about a movie, and the movie is just sort of playing behind them. And I loved it because it was kind of like dopamine. It was like you didn't even necessarily need to see exactly what was happening, but it just felt lively, it felt exciting, it felt visually compelling. Um,
Totally. And so now think about it, like we've got two things that have happened that weren't there during that time for us. One is the technology has gotten a lot better. So not only can I remove this background or any other background, can do it on Zoom, can do it anywhere, but also we've set up a convention where seeing behind the fourth wall of that is acceptable. So one thing that you've talked about is, oh, people key themselves out and then you see the flicker next to them and they move around and it's like so obvious, or they're cut in half down here. Like we never would have done that when we were using it as an illusion, but it's not an illusion anymore. It's like a storytelling device. So those formalistic see behind the fourth wall, those are also part of the storytelling. And so those are the areas that when I ask you to take a look at it, we're looking at all those things because it leads somewhere. So one place it leads is you're recording videos for me now as part of our thing. So I do some videos and you're cutting them together and I want them to look a certain way. But also I'm trying to lay the groundwork for us to incorporate that in with our clients too. We do a ton of interviews in people's offices right now. And when they do those offices, we use OpenReel to do it. It's a great platform for what we need, and we can get like it's Riverside-ish, but I think better and definitely better for our purposes.
And the main
Um,
reason we use it is so that we don't have to have a camera crew ready to go in 6 different cities.
Yeah, it makes a huge, there are actually, 20 different cities. There's six mostly, but 20, and we can get it there instantly.
Sure.
It's a game changer. But we show the office background. And when those same people are on a Zoom or they're talking to a client on their video platform, they use a background that's out of focus, that's really carefully designed, that they put across the whole organization. So when we're doing our interviews, we have the power now to do that. We didn't when we started because the green screening wasn't good enough. It breaks the illusion, but we could do that now. We could put anything we want behind them. So starting to ask those questions about, oh, let's pilot it on my video. Well, then let's try to do an interview and replace my background like theirs. Now let's go to our client and say, hey, are you interested in us making these more like this? Or is it valuable to you to really see what's behind these people? It's a value we can deliver to our client that we couldn't before. So it's figure things out, build the competency, and then inject it into our client work is our process for this stuff.
I also find it interesting. My wife, who just walked by when I turned my video off,
Right.
she owns her own media company that works with nonprofits, and I always see her on Zoom calls, and I find it so fascinating to see what background she has chosen when she's
Mm-hmm.
like speaking to different clients. Sometimes it's just our apartment with a little blur on it. Sometimes she's in space. And it's always kind of dependent on what relationship she has, what the project is. And anyway, just a small note. But I find that being just another way to
Yeah. Yeah, that's a means of
communicate.
communication. It's all these formalistic ways of communicating. So I would come on, we do a regular like editorial call with one of our clients. And a couple years ago when the Zoom stuff was new, anytime I ended up on my phone joining, it was like whatever background my at that time 8-year-old or 7-year-old had put on there because I never used Zoom on there. So it always had some crazy background and I could tell a story about my daughter. And that is a point of connection. And it's like storytelling that wasn't there before, a little of me. The same way, like, I have a staged background, but for you guys, you're getting a little glimpse of you from the real world too. So it's just storytelling replacing storytelling.
Yeah, and
Portugal.
Yeah.
my brain immediately goes to what potential that has for for like fiction, because
Yes.
like it tells you so much about a character and their relationship with the people, depending on what background they're choosing. So that's cool.
Yeah. I had a cool fiction idea yesterday that came from one of these thoughts. So I was listening to a podcast and someone was talking about how they are on TikTok and for some reason they are inundated with um, ads for fancy watches, and they don't like watches. They don't even have a watch, but they're just inundated with these ads. And the person they were talking to, real smart guy, was like, "Oh, it's probably your lookalike." And it's like, and then he said, "On the graph, your lookalike on the graph. It's because your social graph, your fingerprint, your digital fingerprint on TikTok matches someone who might like that kind of thing." And I thought, well, that's
Huh.
interesting. The idea of like lookalikes in a behavior setting
Yeah,
like that is super
right.
interesting from a fictional. And then like what if you're caught in your social graph? So like you live in a world where the actions that you've taken create predictions about you that are like self-fulfilling prophecies. Then you can't escape your own social graph, and all of a sudden you become a watch person, in that example, or you can't escape it. You try to break out of it, but you can't because it keeps pushing you in with that stuff. I think that I don't know. I thought it was a cool. I don't know. I'm not a fiction writer, but in my head, it popped in as something cool,
Got it.
fictiony,
Dystopian. Very cool. Yeah,
dystopian for sure.
love
We
it.
live in a dystopian area for sure.
That's
So
true.
I like that this filter is just a dog looking at you.
yeah, see, that's a game changer.
That's right. These are game changers.
Yes, this is what we do on our tech calls. We
Can I
play
combine these? Oh,
with
they're combined. Yes.
we play with Zoom stickers from, 4 years ago.
See, now it's thematic.
Yeah, there you go. That's good. That's good.
Now
I like it.
I'm one of the plants now.
You
Ooh.
always were, Roman.
Look at
You
me.
always were.
Look at me. I am shifting in the breeze.
It's cool how it like goes with you,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
immediately with you.
Coincidentally, I had to give permission to Zoom to track my face, and they promised that the data would not be used for nefarious purposes.
Promises,
Well,
promises.
yeah, exactly. Promises, promises. So I think before we're at about 37 minutes here. I don't want this to go too long. And we have an editorial call to get to at 3 anyway. But I wanted to,
I hope I remember to turn this off.
yeah, you don't even use your camera half the time, so don't worry about
No,
it.
I don't talk on those things. Anyway,
Yeah,
go on.
right.
You
So,
do.
I want to talk a little about my experience this weekend. So I worked with Claude for the first time, and I basically wanted to try all the cool things that Claude has that the others don't. If you want to say what Claude has that the others don't, and Claude is, what's the name of that company? Anthropic. It's Anthropic's engine. It's a separate LLM from GPT or Gemini. Apple just released their own open source one, which is going to be super interesting, but it's an LLM, a large language model. And it is, I'm distracted by the constantly changing stickers that you're putting up from it.
All right, let me pick one that's not too distracting, and we can go from there.
Okay, as long as you settle, I'm good with whatever. Okay, so anyway, I worked with Claude, and so what Claude does is apparently write way better than the others. I didn't really train it too much on that, but I did play with that a little, like just more adeptly mimic and more thoughtfully, it doesn't have thought, but artfully create its prose, basically. So that's one thing about it. The other two things that I thought were interesting that I wanted to explore, one is they have this thing called projects, which is a bit like a custom GPT, but basically it's a space that you can upload sort of shared documents and resources and and you can put shared instructions like across different chats. And then you can open up chats within it, as many as you want, and it will take into account the instructions you've given it and the sort of reference materials you've laid out. So I wanted to play with that. And then the second thing is Claude is good at coding, it seems like. Claude is good at helping make apps and make things. And they have this product called a dashboard, which is like a one file app. Usually an app has 2 or 3 different, maybe 20, but fundamentally 3 different components to it. And they're all combined in one in one HTML file, basically. And it can't do any of the stuff, but it can code it, and it can't test it, but it can debug it if you send it to it. So interesting stuff. And so I was playing with growth loops. Amanda, can you tell the world what a growth loop is?
Oh, can I? So I'm not going to get this right. So a growth loop is basically you give someone something that then makes them go either share it or do something that extends that to someone else, and then that person comes back to you.
Yes, that's right. That's quite accurate for being put on the spot. Basically, it incentivizes action by a audience member that leads to more audience members. So those things could be, I divide them into 3 categories. Platform, which means the platform's doing the incentivizing for you. That's what a like button is. That's what stitches are on TikTok. They're platform elements that just encourage the creation of new content. So whatever the action that the audience can take is action that is active, like actually saying, hey, check this out, or referring more people to get a prize. That's an incentive for a prize. But it also can be creating content. So if you're getting your audience to create more content, that, which would be a stitch, that is organically growing your audience. So there are ways to grow an audience or a customer base, sort of by incentivizing action by the current audience. That's a growth loop. And they're kind of hard to pin down. And you did some research using a tool that we talked about. I think we talked about it last call, but can you just talk for a second about that tool, the trend tool?
Oh, I did not use a trend tool.
You totally did. And it was I can't remember the name of it, but you dropped into our newsletter document a snapshot of the trend that said that growth loop examples was the thing that people were searching for. And it was based on this particular trend tool that I sent to you that I want to use more. That's the reason why. Glimpse. Meetglimpse.com is the website, but it's Glimpse. And I thought that was that is the kind of trend tool that could potentially help us enhance what Google Trends can do, because it seems more immediate. It seemed really actionable. I want you to start using that tool when you're prepping our stories and things to get a sense of whether it's helpful in that way. Okay?
Okay. I only get 9 more searches in the month for free.
So we'll see. Let's see how valuable those 9 searches are, and those can inform whether we make it a service.
Yeah, I'm waiting for good ones.
It's the balance for all this stuff. I mean, that's why I'm trying to get you to do that on Gemini at the same time, because it's like there's just a service for everything, and you have to pay for them and they just compound. And while we're iterating and trying to figure things out, I still pay for frickin' Midjourney, but there are so many different ways to, and I worked with Claude this week. I had to pay for Claude to get it to do what I wanted it to do. So anyway, use those 9 searches. Be targeted. I'm not too worried about you coming with the information all at once, but make sure they're impactful so we can make that decision whether that's something that could be a real level up for us or not. Okay.
Right, but I shouldn't hold out for impactful so that I don't search at all. So I need to finally.
Yeah, you got to find that balance. That's a challenge for you for the week. Okay, cool. That's fair. But so you brought up that examples was the hardest thing about growth loops. So I was like, well, let me see if I can use Claude to do something about that. So I created a project. I did a little trial and error, but when I actually did it, it was about 3 hours altogether. And I have a Loom about it, which I've posted, or I'm going to post, and then people can reference who are watching this. But basically, I created a project and I gave it some real parameters about growth loops. Some things that I have found on the web, or you found, all sorts of different things, and then also my own opinions about growth loops, which my parameters for them, my way of categorizing them. And then I kind of iterated with Claude to create a system for categorizing them and documenting them. And then I worked with Claude to just generate a ton of growth loops. And we generated 278 of them in all different industries all over the place. And some of them are really ingenious and some of them are dumb, but that's what you expect. And you just want volume more than anything else. So I was like, created this big spreadsheet, and then I was like, nobody is ever going to look at this spreadsheet ever because it is just massive, So I went back to Claude and said, hey, can we create a dashboard out of this so people can access it? And we did it. And I was like, but I don't know anything about coding. And then it said, well, better to just keep it a spreadsheet if that's the case. And I said, no, I want you to do the coding and then I'll put it up. And you're like, oh, I thought you meant you didn't want any coding. Sure, I can help with that. And then it did it, and I tweaked it a little bit. I didn't mess with the way it looks. I think I could have done a lot with that, but I didn't want to spend a ton of time on it. And then I was like, well, I don't know what to do with this. I mean, I'm just going to wreck things if I start putting this up on my servers and things. I don't know how that stuff works. So I made it walk me. I said, what can I do to get this so people can see it? And they said, well, you could just drop it in a free site where you can put up any website and they'll serve it for you. I was like, cool. And it's like, here's the one, just do this. And I did it, followed its instructions exactly. I said, tell me step by step. And it went live, and it's really cool. We have a growth loop examples website. Here, let me see if I can pull it up. Let me share my screen, and let me entire screen share, and let me think about the best way I can pull this up. I'm thinking about what will be revealed to the audience for me to find my own. Oops, that's not where I want to search for that. So the whole world can see my stuff. And now I have Windows, blocking Windows. Let's try to say, that was the name of it. Claude and I got high on growth loops, so that's why I searched for that. Okay. All that work just to do this. And now, so say you want to go to video. Boom. You just get all these growth loops. Here are some examples of video AR try-on challenge in e-commerce, social media. Growth stage, I categorize them by a new audience, a established big audience, or trying to launch something new when you already have a big audience. And so this is for getting a new audience. Prompt users to create AR try-on videos with specific products, rewarding the most creative entries, okay? So that's a user content creation one. And then I had it rank them in effectiveness. I set some parameters for that, and it did it. PDF guide loop, content creation. This is one that we injected. I injected this one in from the research you did, Amanda. We heard a podcast about someone who's doing this on YouTube and offer downloadable PDF guides summarizing video content. So you do an interview. This guy who had done it did an interview with Mr. Beast, and people were saying, I pay for a PDF guide of what you thought was most interesting, or if you give me one for free, I'm going to sign up for your newsletter. Those are growth loops. So anyway, I thought it was interesting. It was fun to have this exercise. And the point of it is to show what can be done on that second half of our, let me stop sharing. That second half of our, we've got what we can do to our content itself and our product that we can deliver, but also how can we inject AI into process. And for me, this is an inject AI into process sort of situation. All right, so here's what I want to do for next time, okay? Roman, I want you to play with that background stuff. I want you to get test the tools for AI backgrounds, and I want to get to the point that we can pitch to our clients, hey, would you like this or would you not like this, okay? So I want you to take the step that gets us the due diligence, so then we could, I don't want you to ask that question or get us all the way there. I want you to get it figured out, this backgrounds for nothing stuff, like what you're playing with right now, okay?
You got it.
All right, look at that. Look at that. It's brilliant. So clean. So clean.
Dog.
Yeah.
Tiny dog.
Tiny dog. I
I
like
don't know
the
what the
tiny
dog is
dog.
giving me. It's just a little dog.
Does it have an umbrella in its mouth?
I don't know.
Amanda, what we
Flowers?
talked about with Gemini. Can you keep going there with those two buckets for Gemini? And then also, oh, nice. See, that's AI happening right there. So those two buckets for Gemini, can I get it to do it again? No. Who knows? Anyway, and then, I think there was one other thing that we talked about. What was it? Oh, finding those targeted spots for glimpse too.
Yeah.
If they should
Yeah.
arrive.
If
All right, guys.
they should.
Now wait,
What's
what if you
weird is, yeah, go on.
2 buckets? Say them real quick.
The bucket of trend research and the bucket of productivity, designing,
Yeah.
spreadsheets, just using their productivity tools
Yep, got it.
to do things that we don't know how to do yet because we're not experts. We make content. There's only so much that we do on that side. If AI can boost us, then I want to use it.
This is gonna be like a workplace harassment situation at one point where someone's gonna be like, he was doing crude things like sticking his tongue out, and the guy's gonna be like, I was a bear avatar. Ah,
You wouldn't have sold it if you didn't get the tongue right when you got the tongue. That was mwah, very nice. Good
that's
timing.
because no one was.
You made us
No
wait.
one,
I
well,
like it.
you weren't laughing, so I had to scramble.
It worked out good. It worked out good. It was necessary. All right. Thank you both. I'll see you
Thank you.
soon.
Bye.
Ta-ta for now.